everyone, welcome back to S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
Hi, Steve. How you doing, man? Steve is filling in for Manos today because Manos is on his honeymoon. Yay, Manos got married. How exciting.
I know, it's awesome.
He will be back with us, I'm sure, next week, but Steve was kind enough to fill in. Steve has been kind enough to watch everything.
Yes,
It has been really easy to go to Steve. Steve's become kind of my go-to guy for fill-in. So anyway, thanks a bunch, Steve. Sure appreciate you. You are always tons of fun and to talk to, and you always bring a lot to the table. So thanks a bunch.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on the show. I moved heaven and earth to get this Wednesday night free. It's going to good use.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh, wow,
it was
jeez.
hectic, man.
You didn't have to do that, man.
No, it's fun. I like talking to you, so there's that.
Okay, so now we will rush through S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. Here we go. I'm just kidding.
No, we're good.
Okay, so before we jump into today's episode, as we always do, we're going to answer some questions and comments from the audience on last week's episode. Last week's episode was
really cool name.
Face My Enemy. And yeah, it's weird because this show has really good episode titles, and for some reason I can never remember them. I'm sorry, what's that?
No, yeah, you're right. They're great.
They're always really good episode titles, and then there's other shows that don't have nearly as good episode titles, and I don't have a tough time remembering them. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so
The Calm.
Yeah, but that was, I get why they called it that,
It's not Power Rangers SPD bad, where the first episode's called Beginnings and the last is called Endings.
Yeah, we there should be a whole show on the hilarity of Power Ranger episode titles. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the questions and comments here. Beginning with Brock Sampson 25, talking about last episode. The moment when Coulson realizes the fake May out is in the car when the fake May places her hand on top of his to reassure him she will do what needs to be done if he's gone. Okay, he's just talking about the moment that Coulson finally realized pretty quickly, actually, that the fake May is not the real May, because I had said in that video that I wasn't sure when he figures it out, and he's saying it must be that she's not the physical touch kind of person. Mm-hmm. And that's probably what it was, so thanks for that.
I was wondering on that, because I felt like Coulson knew almost all the way through, because he was really talky with her and asking her a lot of broad questions, so...
What I'm wondering now, looking back on it, is if he wasn't starting to get suspicious of Talbot.
Yeah, possibly.
And
so.
if the idea was May's starting to act weird just after Talbot was acting weird, he doesn't know exactly what's going on, but he's feeling her out like he was feeling Talbot out. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it's really possible, because May and Coulson have a very specific dynamic at the beginning of that episode, so...
They have a specific dynamic
to tell that he
in general.
Feel anyone out that isn't May.
And they've done a really good job of making their relationship... Maybe it's the most unique relationship on the show, where like there's a very specific dynamic between those two people, and they feel like they have a lot of history together. So if you had the kind of thing they do, especially after what they went through at the end of last season and patching that up, it seems like maybe it would almost be like a husband and wife scenario where like, if Sarah started acting really out of character in the kind of dynamic that she and I have together, I would be like, that's not Sarah.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. It's surprising we actually haven't gotten an episode this far where Coulson and May pretend to be married, because it feels like those were the actors to do it with. They did it in Chuck all the time.
Last episode would have been the one. Well, yeah, but in Chuck they did it, and those two characters were actually either dating or one of them wanted to be dating the other one.
Yeah.
Whereas here, there's been I think last episode we had the closest things to maybe Coulson's kind of interested in her, and I really think that there's potential for a romance there.
Yeah. It'd be fun to see that develop, because that's the one thing I latch onto with this show.
What, those two?
Yeah, like I really like Coulson and May together, and I really like the actress for May especially. I think she's the best actress in the show.
That's the one thing you latch onto.
Well, it's the thing I latch onto most.
This is going to be fun. Okay. Rafi Aila. Speaking on the Coulson-Fitz paralleling this season, I'd be interested in seeing both of them deal with the romantic event in their respective ways. Ha! Unintentional segue. Maybe May and Coulson hook up out of stress or actual admiration, and Coulson has to deal with keeping it professional. Meanwhile, Ward could be sprung out, and Hydra could set him up as Simmons' partner, leading Fitz to have the wrong idea and freak out. I'd love just to see both Coulson and Fitz deal with problems that are completely different but play to their own situations. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. This isn't about this exactly, but the whole Ward getting put out there for some reason, I think is a very likely thing to happen before mid-season, don't you? I would be very surprised if they didn't pretty soon do an episode where the only person they could use as a covert op is Ward, and they have to try to, control him. I'm sure they'll do that.
Yeah, I feel like they're setting that up pretty hard. Because the shield that they have him with, they made a really big deal in the first episode when we saw how that thing works and what Fitz was doing to him when he tried to kill him in the previous episode. So I feel like if they don't have to use him, at some point Ward's going to break out. I think that's inevitable given the type of show we're watching. Because all spy shows do that at some point.
He also says after this, I missed this, and this is kind of interesting, also the bit where Agent 33 was pretending to be May, part of me was suspecting Hydra would capture May and have 33 act as their new spy within S.H.I.E.L.D. I didn't think of that. I could totally see why you would think they might go there, sleeper agent. That could lead to 33 leading Coulson down a different path. The thing is, if they had done that, wouldn't they have just had her say, "Yes, Coulson, kill yourself now"?
That's true.
I don't know how long that could have gone.
More than a couple minutes, given that episode.
Yeah, exactly. But that might have been a really interesting thing. And I will say this, and this may sound like a bit of a slam, but there have been some places this season so far where I've gone, and we'll talk about this because there's one in this episode where I've gone, I think you missed an opportunity there. Where it's like here's a. And I always resist. I always try not to go, you didn't do it my way, so that's bad. But I'm just saying that there are places where I'm like, boy, you seem to be going in this direction, and that would have been really, really interesting, but then you cut it short, or you went someplace else that wasn't nearly as cool, and hopefully later I will be glad you did that because of some other cool thing you do. Last season, they managed that for me. There were a couple places where I went, I wish you'd done this, and then I got to the end of the season, and I was like, well, we couldn't have had some of the Hydra stuff and some of the Winter Soldier stuff if we had done that, and so, hopefully that stuff, hopefully whenever that happens, they have a plan, and I'll be with it. For instance, I kept thinking maybe Garrett is somebody in comics we know, and then when he wasn't, and it was this new character they made up, I thought Garrett was really interesting, and so I was totally fine with it, So.
Yeah. I think by the mid-season finale and then the mid-season premiere, we're gonna get at least a few payoffs as far as possibilities go. Because it seems like 5 episodes in, they're doing that a lot more this season than they did last season, where they seem almost intentionally to go in a different direction. So I wonder at some point if the show's smart enough to comment on that.
Me too, because it seems like sometimes maybe they're deflating themselves a little bit, where it's like, here we go, and then, we'll take the easier path. And
I don't know, because I thought the first episode of the season was amazing, and
me too.
I feel like if that's what they were capable of with just the first episode of the season, it surely can't be that hard to think about the steps you might be making incorrectly in a way to make all that work in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Bedell, one thing I like is that they aren't putting Ward in every episode just because his actor is in the main cast, as one of Cap's concerns was that it would be really improbable that they'd need to interrogate Ward in every episode, as it would be really stupid. Yeah, and I'm with you, I'm glad they haven't. However, it is weird that we have gotten him every other episode, and this is
a good episode.
There's a thing right now, and we'll talk about it some more here in a little bit. I talked about this last week. The pattern is holding. Last week I didn't want to call it a pattern yet, we've had 5 episodes now, and this pattern is holding. Every other episode seems to really matter, seems to really be pushing the story forward, seems to be more engaging and a little bit less predictable to me. And then and then so far the 2 episodes sandwiched in between, they haven't been bad. I liked last episode more than the other one of those. And I really liked the last episode. It's just that I could have skipped it, and I don't feel like I would have missed much. You know,
yeah.
like where I'm at, right? I guess I said we were going to talk about this. And let's just knock it out now.
Okay.
We'll just knock it out now. I'll say my piece on it. I kind of feel right now, and I've said this before, but in a somewhat different context, this show would work better in 13-episode Netflix seasons. I keep thinking that, and I'm thinking it more now because you have these so far. Every other episode, we haven't had that many yet, but this season, but so far it seems like every other episode is a standalone, somewhat throwaway, didn't really have to have it, where like one really major token reveal or event will happen that you could easily just put in the recap next week, and you didn't need the rest of the episode. It's like 2 minutes of material, and that's it. That you really have to move on. Whereas, first episode, third episode, this episode, if you skip any of them, you're going to miss vital information and character moments. And those other 2, again, they're not bad. It's just like it feels like they're writing around the 24, 26 episode format.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this before when we were talking, but it's in my notes. To prepare for the discussion show, I actually went on a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. discussion forums to see what people thought.
Yeah.
And there's actually a fan cutout of season 1 that's only 16 episodes. And I haven't seen it, but I wonder if season 1 had that same problem. They were just better at hiding it. And maybe if the season, like you said, it would just play better as 13 episodes bits.
Here's the thing. I felt the same thing about the last season, too, as far as I felt like we were elongating a story that didn't need this many episodes to tell. Now, as I always say, because of course, lots of things I like have this. DS9 has this in a lot of places, where you have a longer season, your overarching story doesn't really require that many episodes, but you take the opportunities to have a filler episode, or not a filler, to have like filler implies skippable. I mean like a fill-in episode where you have it like it's a character piece or something where like you know, we really delve into the mind of somebody and we're really glad we have it. So maybe it's a downtime episode is what I'm saying, where like it doesn't have to be about all the major stuff that's going on. It's not a plotty episode. It's about character stuff, and so it matters. We're glad we have it. It informs the show, and I feel like this show has not been as good at those, where it just hasn't. Like we'll have those, and it's like, yeah, it's still, sometimes they still feel kind of plotty, but they're just plotty in a 1-episode format as opposed to getting things done for the overarching story. But last season, I felt like they would have sometimes in the earlier part of the season several in a row, or you know, a couple in a row. Or whatever, and some people even feel like the first episode is really good and then just skip to after Winter Soldier. I don't agree with that. I think there's a couple really good ones before that, but I'm just saying that, like, I don't think it's the same thing. Now it seems to be a weird pattern. It's like every other episode really matters. I don't think last year had that exactly. It's almost like they're doing it on purpose. And so what I'm wondering is if they're not going somewhere with it somehow, and if they do, that's really cool. But it would mean they're taking the same risk that I was said that they might have taken last season, which was, we're gonna make you think you're watching a somewhat mediocre, kind of just like fun, rompy kind of spy show, and then it gets really heavy when you find out that Ward wasn't who you thought he was, and then you go back, and then if you were to go back and rewatch those episodes, there's a lot of layers. This season, I don't know what it would be, but they might be taking that risk again, where it's like we want you to be thinking, okay, next week we're gonna get another It Doesn't Matter That Much episode. You know what I mean? I don't know why. If they're doing that, I don't know why. But I don't know. That's the only correlation I can make between the 2 seasons and what the structure was.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I'm not sure if it's a subconscious thing or it's an intentional thing. Because if that's the pattern they want to stick with, that could only work for so long before it starts to break down on them because it becomes a gimmick, or it stops being believable. But that's, of course, going to like worst case scenarios. it would be really cool because Joss Whedon's touches in this a little bit with some of the writers he's worked with, if they did some kind of meta commentary about production of TV shows.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, with some of the restrictions they have on the show now, like S.H.I.E.L.D. being a bit underground and Hydra being like a big, almost corporate kind of thing, I think it's easily built in there. And maybe what you're latching onto is like maybe by the end of the season, we could see season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as kind of a not so in-your-face commentary on how Marvel does business and how TV shows work now as opposed to how they used to. Because I mentioned when we were talking about this before we recorded that the show doesn't seem to be taking any cues from really obvious spy show sources.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like anyone's drawing any inspiration from any of that. And I still wonder if some of that's intentional. Because there's no way these writers wrote these stories without growing up on some of those things. Manos mentioned this, but this season is A-Team. Like,
yeah. No, I said the same thing.
They haven't made an A-Team joke yet, unless they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, like Coulson would be exactly the kind of person to say I love it when a plan comes together. I don't know how we haven't had something like that yet. That would be the obvious on the nose thing to do, but you know what though? If somebody said that exact line, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be totally fine with it.
No, I love it. Like you said, it's in Coulson's character.
I think it is.
And even some of the character types we're using, like there's connections and there's draws of like where these types came from the same genre. You've got people like the Russo brothers working on Captain America and Agent Carter who did the exact same thing, who reference millions of movies within their own work, and they can go to those people for consultation, and I wonder if they haven't already just to do something with this format.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
It's wishful thinking, of course, but...
Jer Bear, I don't think Lance is boring. I just think the writers have big plans for him. And isn't that weird? We have a Lance here, and we have Lance as an Arrow.
I got confused for a second. Like, wait, are you talking about Arrow by accident?
No, Hunter. If that is his last name, I think it is. Or no, it's his first name. So Lance Hunter. So we got a first
Nick
name
Blood,
Lance
Hunter.
Nick Blood. Is Lance Hunter. I just think the writers have big plans for him, and they don't want to give people any ideas. Similar to what happened to Ward last season. He has an upbeat personality and he has a lot of good lines. That's good enough for me. I don't need a ton of character stuff because I know that's coming. Fair enough. I wish I trusted it as much as you do. I guess for me, I felt like that second episode. And I know I was a little down on that episode, but I feel like like that episode was working really hard to make me like that guy, and it didn't work for me. Like I don't think it's the same thing as Ward, where Ward is played up as like a really generic, obvious archetype, and it turns out there's a lot more to him. This guy, I feel like they're playing up as he's complicated, and I'm just, for some reason, I'm not latching on to him yet.
Do you think?
A little more so after last episode. I don't hate him. I'm just like, I'm very indifferent toward him, and I feel like the show is trying to really push him to, he's the next big, like, he's replacing Ward. He's the next big regular cast character that I'm supposed to be really on board with, and replacing Ward also in the sense of he can be underhanded and work just for himself, but he is on the team. For some reason, and I can't really articulate it right now. I'm not really with him yet. How do you feel about that character, Steve?
Yeah, I don't like him. I like some of his dialogue. Like every now and then he says something witty, and I find it fun. I think he delivers it well.
Are we supposed to like him? Are we supposed to find him somewhat irritating, like some of the other people on the show? I guess what I'm saying is it's a little bit awkward. I can't figure out what I'm exactly supposed to be feeling with that guy, and I don't mean to say that like if the show was just telling me how to feel, I'd feel that way. I'm just saying that like I don't know if they entirely have him worked out yet. I don't know. Anyway,
I think it's possible because Ward was a double agent last time, and Lance Hunter in the comics is a double agent for the Red Skull and starts Strike.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really possible that they're doing something similar to him.
Oh yeah, good call.
And it might even be possible that now that we have his ex-wife on the team, that he gets a little more fleshing out. So if he does eventually, I don't know, like defect or leave or start Strike or something, it might be a little bit more believable in that sense because he'll have actual human connections. It might be more of like a wait-and-see kind of thing with that guy.
Yeah,
because I like the actor a lot in the role. It's just
he's doing a fine job.
Clearly they're shoving him to the side for something.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I won't belabor it. We'll just see where he goes, I suppose. Jesse Tribble says he commented last week, and I talked about his comment and asked if that was his real name, and it is his real name. His last name is Tribble. That's awesome.
There's a William Shatner meme out there somewhere made just for you.
Yeah. So I wonder, like, if you eat anything, do you just start making multiples of yourself? Is that? And I really enjoyed this week's episode. If anything, I think May is cooler than Black Widow now, especially with that slow-mo head bash move at the end. Like I said, the show works the best when it's having fun. I'll agree with the show works best when it's having fun, although... Well, kind of. Although, like, when it got heavier last season, I was with it a lot more. Like I do like when it does the fun stuff, but not when. But when it like throws something at me that I didn't expect them to do, I guess more often when it's like It was like, wow, really, they went there, that's awesome. But as far as her being better than Black Widow, I don't know, I can't say that after Winter Soldier. I mean, she's just incredibly interesting, and I feel like there are still character things to do with May. Like that we do, like, there's plenty to do with Black Widow. I'm just saying that, like, she's still not as fully drawn as I think she could be.
Yeah, I think the thing with May is last episode felt a lot like they had a really cool idea for one scene and they stretched it into an episode, and that idea was May fighting May. And yeah, there's definitely places to go with her, and I like her character well enough. Obviously not as cool as Black Widow, I don't think. Because, like, Winter Soldier is my favorite comic movie of all time. I like Black Widow way more than I like May.
So far. But we just saw the Ultron trailer, and that could change your mind.
It could. I don't know.
It could.
Because that's that trailer, man. Anyway. But, yeah, I don't know. The thing about May might just also be that her history almost feels like it's more interesting than her present. Like, she seems to be the character, if this show ever starts to degenerate into flashbacks, I don't mean degenerate in a bad way, but I mean, like, if it ever resorts to flashbacks, then May's the character to do it with constantly, and if Agent Carter ever interacts with anyone in the present team, it should be May. Because I think May's got the best handle on having a full worked out three-dimensional background that we don't know about yet. And every other character, they seem to be dancing around that more than her.
Forgive me for asking this, but why would Carter interact with anybody in the present?
I just mean, like, randomly. Like, because Agent Carter would be a lot older in the present. Like, what if when May was really young, or, like, May's mom that we met last season, they knew Agent Carter or something?
Oh, okay, yeah, we're like...
And then maybe like, that's one of her influences to
like
the reason she fights for S.H.I.E.L.D. so hard, because her mother she was friends with one of the creators of it.
Like, maybe in her 50s and 60s, she was at, like, a desk job position before she retired or something.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the Marvel tradition to maybe somehow tie Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. directly into what we're going to get with Agent Carter by the mid-season finale. I think it'd be really cool if we did it with May, because Marvel's doing really good with female characters as far as in the movies they're in. Agent Carter is awesome, and I'm shocked that she didn't get a show before Coulson. So if we got May working with Agent Carter, that would just be amazing.
Review King MB, I completely agree about Triplet. In fact, I think I made that comment a couple weeks ago. My fear is that they're building toward a Lance Hunter, Skye Ward love triangle. I could be wrong, but whenever Hunter and Skye are in scenes together, they have this flirty way of talking that slightly annoys me because I do not care for Hunter at all. Well, I clearly somebody is kind of with me on Hunter so far. I still feel like they want to do a Skye Trip thing.
Yeah, but last season they were doing like a Simmons trip thing, and now that Simmons is back, I wonder if that...
Oh, no, never mind what I just... No, you're right, they were doing a Simmons trip thing, weren't they? What am I talking about? No, he's right. They are likely to go there with Hunter, especially if they're going to play up the whole Hunter is kind of replacing Ward thing. Yes, absolutely. No, trips into Simmons. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be really cool if they did a love triangle well with those characters, and I mean, I'm not a one for giving love triangles to characters to improve them, but I think in this case it could definitely help them a little bit because it gives them something to do.
Well, and I mean, I'm the one that keeps saying, okay, now I'm confused because, has there actually this season maybe been some Trip Simmons might have a thing? I mean, not Simmons, Trip and Skye might have a thing over Simmons. Because last week I was really kind of
as a romance necessarily.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, last week I was really kind of thinking that maybe there was something there. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, this show has not been about relationships so much about as it has been about maybe kind of flirting with them. And considering all the other relationships I have to keep up with in other shows, I'm going, well, what was that? Anyway, sorry, excuse me. All right,
There's no Venn diagram necessary for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Moving on. Duper Super 1938. Please don't make Fitz a villain. Ward was a great surprise, but if I wanted constant heel turns, I'd watch wrestling. The thing about that, though, is that with Fitz, it wouldn't be a heel turn, right? It would be like
a progression of where he went.
Yeah, that implies that a heel turn implies, I think, that a character was bad all along, and then we finally reveal that they're bad, right? Like kind of the 24 thing. With this, it would be he's a tragic character who is on a path to darkness, and that's where I thought he might be last week, and I was really kind of hoping for. Now that Simmons is back already with him, which I did not expect to happen this early, I don't know. Now it is possible that it could still happen, and we'll talk about that, but anyway, let's go ahead and go on to today's episode, shall we? Today, talking about A Hand in the Wolfhouse. Once again, a really great title.
Awesome title.
Their titles are very Buffy Angel, right? And like Hand in the Wolfhouse, I totally could have seen as an Angel title. It is telegraphy, but what I like about it is that at first, if you're thinking about it at all, and of course, it's one of those things where we don't put episode titles actually inside the episode anymore, which I really wish we would do, especially when they're part of the piece, when they tell you something. And I know I'm a title guy, and that irritates some people, but I want to talk about this for a second. So, when you have a thing like this where like we actually make the episode title kind of part of the piece because it informs it in some way, we really should be putting the episode titles in the episode, because the only way you would know it is if you went on the internet and you looked it up, and that's dumb. You shouldn't have to do that. So anyway, that's why I always say we should have episode titles, especially in Whedon shows. But anyway, so Hand in the Wolfhouse, if you knew about that title and you thought it might telegraph something and tell you something, you'd think that it's talking about Simmons, and it's actually talking about Mockingbird. So that's cool. I like that.
I think you could also, in some way, interpret it as it's talking about Raina, because the way Coulson kind of chews her out with his new position as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the way she's so desperate about it, it feels a little bit like she went in expecting more hens, but got eaten by Coulson, who's seemingly a wolf sometimes.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that. So we've got kind of the same thing in two subplots.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, converging subplots. Obviously, we're talking not even subplots so much as characters. Just a couple characters in different places. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that scene with Raina, and I really like the reveal of Mockingbird when we get that.
Yeah, I like that too. She has potential to be really cool.
Yeah. Did you watch her in the Wonder Woman pilot?
I saw the Wonder Woman pilot. It didn't occur to me that that's who that was.
Yeah, that's that actress. She's the only thing about the Wonder Woman pilot that I actually liked. So I'm
that's
really glad
her.
she got another comic book role.
I didn't notice that somehow. Wow. Thanks for telling me that. Awesome.
She's really good as Wonder Woman, and she's really good as Mockingbird.
I thought I can't believe that's the same actress. Wow. And I can't believe I didn't notice it. That's crazy. Wow, what, you just blew my mind with that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I liked her in the Wonder Woman role. I just thought that the writing was abysmal, but
that pilot was garbage. But
she was really,
actress was not.
Yeah, she was incredibly unsympathetic, and really strange. It was really strange, that show. But anyway, well, that's super cool, because it's nice that she got a second chance in a superhero thing, and with a character that folks have heard of and has a long history. And this is one of the first characters that I think descends above C-list.
In some way, yeah. She could very easily make it into the movies with Hawkeye.
Yeah, she could. Well, yes, of course, yeah. And I mean, I'd like to see more of that. Of course, we've already had some precedent for that, not of introducing a character in the show and bringing them to movies, but having a character that transcends both, because we've done that a few times now, which is cool. And I don't even mean with the bigger ones. I mean with like the minor ones, especially Stillwell and stuff like that. What
was her name? The person from Thor, the one from Thor, what's her name?
Oh, Sif, yeah.
Sif, yes,
Yeah,
Lady Sif.
but like I said, that's one of the more bigger obvious ones. I'm saying that even like small time shield agents have popped back and forth, and have sometimes turned out to be turncoats and stuff. But anyway, I think that's gonna excite people. That we've got a character that is a major Shield character from the comics that people have actually heard of. Mockingbird's not a character I knew anything about at all. It's just not a character I've ever read in anything. But then I did a little bit of research and went, oh, okay, cool. So this is a character that has been in stuff and people know and care about, and has history with Hawkeye, which is exciting because I think that that could be a way to bring him in episode, maybe. You know, that we could finally get that.
Jeremy Renner always says his schedule is really busy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be too busy after Ultron. So if he could pop in for this season or something, that'd be great.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. What did you think of her right away?
I think I liked the actress, and that informed what I thought of her character, because I thought she was kind of bland as a character.
So did I right away. In fact, I even tweeted, so before I even realized who it was supposed to be, like, I had to look things up later and go, oh, Mockingbird, okay. At first, I tweeted, okay, another generic S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, hope they do something with her. And then somebody said, "Oh, that's not generic. That's Mockingbird." And I replied, and I was like, "Well, I don't mean generic in that they made the person up. I mean in characterization. Hopefully, they go places with her and stuff. Because so far, I just feel like a lot of these new characters have not been very fully drawn at all."
Yeah. I wonder if it's not that this season is actually stretching the pilot to maybe even 5 episodes to build up their cast and finally do something with it.
Well, maybe so. Fair enough.
Because I feel like Hunter really lit up when we finally got an interaction between him and his ex-wife, when we found out as Mockingbird. Yeah. And I like that moment, not because I like either of their characters, but there's like a spark of something between them, and I think that has potential.
It does. I will say that I groaned. Just because that dynamic is so irritating a lot of the time. Like, I'm hoping it's great, but the whole, like it was already kind of annoying to me last week with the whole I have to keep bringing up my ex-wife thing. Now she's there, and I'm like, I hope that's cool and not annoying constantly. I mean, I guess we'll see, and I'm just giving my gut reactions of things. That, like, right now, I feel like a lot of things here could go in all kinds of directions. You know what I mean? Like, there are things set up in this episode that could be great and could be really abysmal. But it really cool that they used that actress who played Wonder Woman, because she knows how to do action, man. I mean, the stick whirling stuff was awesome. I tweeted this. I was like, couldn't they be whirly sticks? Couldn't we get sticks to have the whirly sound when you hit people, when you swing them around and hit people with them? I love that. I love the whirly stick thing. But anyway, that was fun.
Yeah, she was channeling Nightwing and Black Widow there for
all at the same time. I had the same thing with Black Widow. I was like, wow, yeah, she's another one of those.
The only thing that bugged me about that scene when she reveals herself is that it's almost camera angle for camera angle and coordination-wise. It's the Iron Man 2 Black Widow scene.
Yeah, but I mean, I can see why you're saying that now that you say it. I didn't think that while I was watching it, so that's good.
Oh, that's weird, because I feel like the moment she turned her head up and her hair flipped, I'm like, that's Scarlett Johansson Black Widow. I couldn't think of anything else.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I can see why you're saying that now that you're saying it, but I didn't have that right off. Anyway, so, yeah, I don't know, the action and stuff was good. That was fun. What else? Because there's something else I was going to say about her, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Was it like her thing to be called Bobby?
Oh, I know what it was. I know what it was. I called that there was going to be another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent there. I didn't know it would be like she breaks Simmons out and all of that. I thought all that was pretty well handled. Is the idea that, and forgive me, I only had a chance to watch this once just before we did the show today, but was the idea that Coulson knew she was there and that's why he let the counter go to 0?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
I like that a lot. Let me use this to. So we'll talk some more Mockingbird, but I want to use this to segue into Coulson, because I have been making an assumption all season that this episode kind of blew apart, and I like that it blew it apart. The assumption I've been making all season is that Coulson has gotten dark. that Coulson has taken the way Fury handled things and decided that because of what happened with him last season and finding out that he was the one that resurrected himself and all of that, or that he had created the project that resurrected him, and all those things, that compartmentalization is important and he has to do that, and that he's gotten a little bit cynical and he's not as idealistic about the truth as he used to be. This episode blew that apart a little bit, because his reasonings for keeping things from people is not the same as Fury's. I thought that he had gotten to a place where he decided that to be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. you can't trust people, and it had a lot more to do with, I don't know why Skye didn't have the same, why that obelisk didn't have the same effect on her, and so I can't tell her everything because I don't know what it'll do to her. And once and also, he's not like Fury, where he is taking the kinds of risks with other people's lives as he would. They bring us, so they did a great job, because of the way they've been playing him earlier in the season, of making me think that I bought it, making me think that he actually put her life that much in danger, and he had a contingency plan like he always did through season 1. He has that Captain America Superman thing of there's always another way, and he still believes it. And I thought it was really cool that the show took me to that place to believe that he might have gone a lot darker, and he's still kind of had that that optimism, at least a little bit, the entire way through. I think he's darker than he was. I think that
something that just comes with the job.
Yeah, but when Skye keeps saying that he's changed, I thought it was the show talking about, finally, the ways in which I thought he had changed, because I kept going, when are we going to get into this? When are we finally going to talk about it? And she is talking about the way he keeps things from her, because she doesn't know why he's doing that. And once she finds out, it all comes together. I liked all that stuff a lot.
Do you think part of the idea with that might also be... when he starts, he has all of these lies for very good reasons, and we can sympathize with them and we can understand. But that's the dangerous path he's going to walk on to become exactly like Nick Fury.
Yeah, possibly.
The job has made him obviously darker because it requires certain judgment calls. And he has to lie no matter how idealistic he is about it. Eventually, it just turns into compartmentalization and lying.
Yeah, and subconsciously, you don't mean to, because when when Skye says... I wasn't, honestly, looking back on the scene now, I'm not sure how to read it, which is kind of cool. Because when Skye says no more secrets, and by the way, how sick am I of that phrase in superhero shows now? No more secrets. Gee, I wonder where this is gonna go. Everything does it. But anyway, this is an exception because it's really interesting. When she says, I mean, earlier in the episode, I was finding it annoying, and then we got to the end, and they did something with it. And she says, okay, so no more secrets, right? And he says, and it was a very awkward, tense moment, and he says, yes. And then they move on. And I don't know if he meant it or not, because you can read it in a couple ways. It could be he still knows that he might have to keep some secrets from people, or it could be that now that she knows what she knows, he really isn't going to keep secrets from her anymore. I'm really not sure how to read that.
Yeah, and I think something you have to factor in there is, last season, like you said, Coulson's the guy there's always another way. And Coulson is always idealistic. He always goes for the best case scenario. But just last episode, it was all about the worst case scenario.
Well, that's true, and also last episode was all about getting over nostalgia and having a dose of reality.
Exactly. Coulson has started to go on a progression that no matter how idealistic he appears or how idealistic he was, there's change coming and he can't really fight it, and I don't think he is anymore.
But I think in some ways, yeah, but... I keep feeling like in some ways he is sort of still kind of fighting it, because we got that very early first season Coulson there in that scene where he lets the counter go to 0, where he wouldn't actually go that far. He had a contingency, and he was completely sure of it the whole way through. So I don't know. I think maybe he is still trying to fight it a little bit. I mean, maybe it just depends on what we're talking about. We're like he won't. He's not optimistic to the point of thinking he'll always make it. Right. But he won't put his team in the kind of danger that Fury might have. But then you go back to the first episode, and you had that scene where he told them to stay in the field, even though it was really highly volatile and they had a really good chance of getting killed. And then one of the agents got killed, and he's not like berating himself and blaming himself for it. Huh?
Yeah, because I mean, part of the thing I think I read with the counter is he's got a contingency plan, obviously, and that's kind of why he's so comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But going through his head, especially last episode, first episode, and this, he has to realize that there's going to be a point where he has to do the exact same thing and there isn't a contingency.
So
where he's going to have to sacrifice someone at some point, and he did that the first episode, and it weighed on him a little bit, but after a while things got back into the groove, and I wonder if he gets too comfortable in that, and that's when the big judgment comes where he has to do something that isn't in his nature but is required of the job, and that's where we kind of see his growth fully come circle.
Well, and then how does the whole obelisk thing fit in all of that with just the whole, like, he can't be sure if he's ever himself and all of that? Because there's got to be a correlation there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Because Marvel's been doing a lot of things, especially with Phase 2, that are all about questions of identity. Like Iron Man 3 was all Ship of Theseus, Winter Soldier is all Ship of Theseus, that book is all Ship of Theseus. And it's really nice to see that this TV show is touching on that a little bit, because kind of the fundamental idea of that is how many pieces can you replace before you're a different being.
Right.
And Coulson's got that in spades now. Like he's lost a great deal. He's added new bits in there, but how much of that is old Coulson? How much of that is new Coulson? And is he really the same person that he was, and does he really want to be because of the role he's in?
See, I was talking about that real hard last season, and I just hope that they keep going forward with it and that they take it far enough, because you have to really question if he is even the same guy at all that he was before he died, and I don't know that the show's dealing with that enough.
Yeah, because I actually rewatched the pilot of the show a couple days ago because I was nostalgic for that. I thought that was a great pilot. And it might just be the fact that it's a pilot and they're playing it differently, but he seems like a substantially different person in that than he does here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm wrong then that he's that he has changed.
See, I don't think you're wrong.
But he's not. But he's not as far
now. But I feel like there's more to it that we're going to see come in the next couple episodes.
Well,
I'm saying
great.
episode 7 because you're patterned, but we'll see.
I guess we'll see. Yeah. Okay. What else should we talk about? Major revelations this episode. They did a decent job of getting us to some places. They have now finally dropped the Sky might be an alien bit. So she's not Spider-Woman now. Probably because I don't think they say that, and then it turns out not to be that, right? Like, I mean, it could be something else, but I'm just saying that, like. The way they played that scene, it felt very like Jonathan Kent Clark Smallville to me. It felt very. We are telling the audience that this is that this is what it's ultimately going to be, even though neither of these people is completely sure of it, because we know that the obelisk is alien, and I guess we'll find out with whoever the dad turns out to be and what that's all about. But so I don't know. She might not be alien, but I'm just saying that like I would be a little bit because of course everybody keeps going to Ms. Marvel, and I'm going to be a little bit disappointed if it's not Spider-Woman just because of all those really interesting kind of Easter eggs that Dan kept finding at the beginning of last season that really, and all the way through the middle, that really seem to be planted. And if it's all coincidental, I'm going to be really surprised by that because a lot of those powers seem to seem to be there. Although I haven't noticed it since then. I haven't noticed the pheromone power thing that we thought we were seeing really work its magic since then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about Spider-Woman, so I wasn't able to keep up with a lot of those Easter eggs.
I don't either, but all he was saying was that and I guess there were a couple other things that seemed to point to it too, but mostly it was she seems to have power over men. And I'm not seeing that anymore as much. Yeah,
neither am I. Because in a lot of ways, she's a bit of a different person too. Not to a great extent, but she's grown.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was just the way her character was before. That's just kind of her attitude before, and that makes men more just gravitate to her because she's an open person. And now she's not anymore, and so it's gone.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe so. So anyway, what do you think of all that?
The alien thing is weird because it fits too perfectly to be true, I think.
Okay, all right.
Like, if it's true, that's great, but
So you're hoping they're going somewhere else with it?
Yeah, like, I mean, like, when you say alien, it feels like that's the obvious thing, right? Like, everything adds up to maybe her being alien, and I wonder if they're going to use that to throw us for another loop.
And the thing that gives me pause about it is that there have been a number of points in the show where I've gone, ooh, that's too easy, they're gonna throw me for a loop, and then they've played the thing that seemed kind of the obvious place to go as a big reveal. They did that some last season. I felt like the way the Coulson thing ultimately worked out was a little bit like that. I didn't call that it was going to turn out to actually be him, but there were that actually did the project. I thought that was cool. But there were things about it before that. It's been a while, but there were. I recall complaining about things before that where I was like, "You guys are going to play this up as a big deal?" Like that's kind of what I thought, you know. So I don't know, but I mean, we'll see, because the show started gaining momentum and having a lot better writing later on, and you know, at the end of last season. So
yeah, I think a pattern we're almost seeing at this point is the show's able to get us to come back week to week, and that's almost entirely due to all the potential it's able to carry out with these characters.
You just got to pay it off, yeah.
Yeah, like it didn't die last season because the payoffs worked.
Yeah,
and I wonder if this season's going to be kind of the same way, where whether we lose viewership or not, everyone who's sticking with it can't help but go back to the next episode because there's things there, and there's ideas there, and there's just an idea of, I want to see if I'm right with every episode.
But don't you think that less of it could feel somewhat mediocre? You know what I mean? You know, just make it a little bit more fun than it is. And I mean, I know some folks are going to think I'm being really hard on it, but there are just weeks where I feel like it's kind of average.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and
it's
I'm not
a perfect
throwing...
show. Like, we can't do ourselves because we love Marvel to say, like, this is a great show and we should like it and there's only minor issues. Like, it's got substantial problems every now and then. It just seems to be the Superman animated series syndrome of, we remember it when it's really, really fun regardless of plot points, and we forget it when it's really, really boring and there's plot points that don't make sense.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. The difficulty for me right now is not comparing it to other things. If this existed in a vacuum, I'd probably like it better. But the problem is, I'm not throwing around words like average when I'm talking about some of the other shows we're doing discussions on. And
yeah, like big one. You just uploaded Gotham, I think, and Gotham went from being really mediocre to average to being amazing.
Yeah, or at the very least, just like really thought provoking, and I'm very excited about it every week. You know, it's making me think a lot. But anyway, again, I don't want to compare it too much to stuff. All I'm saying is that's making it harder for me to immediately go, yeah, it's fine, guys. Don't worry, they know what they're doing. And part of that is that week to week, it doesn't always feel like the same show to me. And that's getting really weird. Anyway, let's move on, because I'm focusing too much on this. What other bits about the thing have we not talked about this episode? Fitz and Simmons. There might be. This is the place where I'm talking. We might have a missed opportunity here. Let's see where it goes. But I wanted to see Simmons in Hydra longer.
Yeah. I feel like just on a practical sense, it might not have been too hard to get Simmons out of there.
Yeah.
But my issue is more that we admit in this episode that Fitz is trying to cope without Simmons, and we never got to a point where he's able to be himself without Simmons before we inject Simmons back into it.
Yes, but might they be going somewhere with that too? Might the idea be that her coming back makes it worse for him somehow?
Yeah. I mean, that could be cool.
And if they go there, then it could be great. But if she comes back and this is just a way to try to get us back to the status quo they used to have, and they've just been stretching this out so that it doesn't feel unrealistic that a couple episodes after the end of last season, he's just back to normal. So the only reason they've been doing this is not because it's interesting psychology and interesting character stuff and good drama, but because they're trying to make it not seem too easy. I'm going to resist that really hard. I do not want to see those characters get back to where they were. Like the whole Fitz and Coulson will never be the same thing is too interesting to not keep going with it. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they're going to do that, but bringing her back made me go, ugh, that's tough. That's
like my major issue with it is just like I want to see where it goes, but unlike everything else, I feel like this very definitively closed a specific door, because last episode we had we had Fitz finally opening up and talking to people and having a beer with people, and then the very opening of this episode, he admits that he's talking to his own subconscious and he's dealing with that, and then you inject Simmons into it. But there was a very cool idea to do like a Fitz focused episode where he's just dealing with the person in his head versus who he wants to be around everyone else.
Yeah.
And we immediately get rid of that to have Simmons back. Even if it's really good, it's kind of disappointing.
And again, I think it's also disappointing not to do something with, and again, maybe I'm just rewriting this too much, I don't know. But like, I really felt like they were going in a potential direction of Simmons might get to like working for Hydra too much. I would have really enjoyed that.
And likes the lie or gets used to the lie and compromises.
More gets changed by her interactions with people she comes to care about, like with Ward. Now, they didn't go there, so I can't talk about that, but considering that Ward is still around, and then she goes there and gets put in a very similar situation to him, and they started establishing these characters that she was dealing with that I felt like could have become real three-dimensional characters that she came to accidentally care about, even though they worked for Hydra, and kind of blur the lines of the things a little bit, where you have the extremes. You have the ideology that Coulson embodies, and you have the ideology that Whitehall embodies, but the people underneath that are just human beings doing jobs, and maybe they believe in all that stuff to a certain degree, but mostly they're there because of their interests. And that was the big thing that was interesting in with Simmons, was this notion of the lie she tells of, I just go wherever I need to go in order to get to do science. And what if it became that for her? What if it turned into that? And they made my mind go to a bunch of places, then they can't do any of it now. So I really hope that somehow getting her back ends up being as fascinating as where it seemed like they might have gone with that stuff.
Yeah, like I resist a little bit, because in this episode we have this line when Simmons figures out what Hydra's doing, and she said you could kill billions of people, and her coworker is like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I feel like that's just, you're making that person less interesting because now he's just a stock follower of Whitehall.
And I didn't feel like we had that before. I felt like a couple episodes ago the whole idea was, you have a bunch of people in Hydra that don't believe in the cause and they don't care about the cause. They're there because it lets them do what they want to do. They're there because it gives them stability. They're there because, just like Garrett, they think that's where the wind is blowing, and if they're anywhere but with Hydra, they're going to get stepped on like ants.
Yeah, and in episode 3, I thought it was like this really cool commentary on that corporate culture.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
It sends out this mission statement, sends out this vision statement, and everyone, they don't really care about it.
Or they don't understand it.
And it makes them feel welcome because other people are like that too. And ultimately the problem comes when the company does something that they don't agree with, and what do they feel about that? And I thought all that was being played up really hard in the 3rd episode.
Me too, and
now it's just gone.
They made it. They simplified it.
I thought Simmons was going to get a payoff, and when she comes back finally to S.H.I.E.L.D., she was going to become a really good liar. And it becomes scary, but they didn't really do anything with that either.
That's a good point. Well, I just thought the idea that they were playing up in that 3rd episode was that people that worked for, and I like that you talked about the corporate, the corporate stuff, was that they are in kind of in denial, or maybe are even naive about where they are and what they're doing and what they're helping to perpetuate. Like, they're drifting out of touch, and it's easy to not care about those horrible implications because you're comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of that idea from Iron Man 3 of, like, you're no longer doughy-eyed scientists. At a point, reality sets in and you're just doing what makes you feel comfortable because you feel like that's all there is, even though your superiors are the ones playing the idealistic games you used to care about.
Well, and also remember there was all that talk in the 3rd episode about different kinds of brainwashing. That it isn't just hook a person up into a machine and turn them turn them into another person through conditioning. And remember, I like that idea of not everybody is even susceptible to that. So we brainwash people in different ways. We bribe them and we make them comfortable, and we put them in a situation where they are dehumanized to the point of not even caring that they work for evil incarnate, because they're getting whatever they want at the most, like, base and kind of primal level in a way, right? Where, like, they're reduced to animals without even realizing that they are, and they become loyal because of because of the hand that feeds them, that kind of thing. And I'm with you. I feel like this episode kind of lost track of that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes me think of Angel, and when we talk about, like, Wolfram and Hart, and it really is literally that idea, and we're embodying a lot of it with the two main lawyer characters.
Good point, yeah.
And we could easily do that here, because it's kind of the same thing. Like, Wolfram and Hart and Hydra are almost interchangeable in some sense of being embodiments of evil. And
it would be nice to get the it's okay because it's just business.
Yeah, exactly. And part of the things I love about Angel is that you can't just do good. You have to connect to people. And they're doing that on the evil side this time with S.H.I.E.L.D., which is really interesting. You can't just do evil. You have to connect with people. And Simmons is connecting with people. That's what made that third episode so interesting.
Well, or she might get to the point where she's connecting with people. I don't think they went quite that far yet, but...
Yeah, like, but, like, there's the potential there. Like, you do what you do, but you do it because there's other people that you care about involved in it.
I'm just saying, I don't want to read too far into it, like, oh, they didn't go the cool place I think they should have gone. I just feel like they were setting some of that stuff up. Yeah. And then, especially with the different kinds of brainwashing thing, and I hope they find a way to keep doing that sort of thing. Now, let's not... We're only in the 5th episode. Let's not throw out the possibility that she could wind up back there somehow.
Yeah.
I don't see how. I mean, she got broken out by Mockingbird. Was there anything she did that made it really clear to everyone that she was definitely also a mole?
Well, there was the photo.
Yeah.
The one that she sent out with her at the paper thing.
So that's not... I don't think there's any way that happens. Now that I'm thinking about it, they probably will not somehow find a way to, because the thing is, I thought that was such a flimsy cover in the first place. I can't really see them somehow getting her back in. Anyway, what other, real quick, what other stuff have we not discussed that we should before we move on to categories?
We got some more personal time with Sky's father this time.
Yes.
We had, like, 2 pretty prominent scenes in the very beginning and a little bit near the end.
Okay. I only had a chance to watch this once, and I was very confused at the end, and I feel like a moron. Would you please explain to me the he's a monster thing? I did not know what I was looking at there. Coulson sees all these dead bodies and thinks Sky's father did it and said he's a monster, and then Sky's father says the same thing looking at him on a security camera, and then breaks the pad, the tablet. And I don't understand. I don't know what's going on there, Steve. Explain the scene to me, Steve. I don't understand.
Well, the first scene when he shows up and Raina shows up, he's this really calm and collected guy, but the moment someone says something he doesn't want to hear, he's grabbing her neck and throwing her against the wall and screaming at her and stuff. And then at the end of that scene, when the people he's operating on kind of in a backwards way insult him, he just glares at him, and we get the notion that he killed both of those people just because they said something he didn't like.
Yeah.
And so when we get to that end scene and we saw that Sky's father killed those 2 people, and then at the very end when we goes to Daniel Whitehall and he just beats the crap out of those 2 security guards and then just kind of shifts back between being matter of fact and being kind of ferocious.
Yeah, he's potentially fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's got this really weird dichotomy of being really angry sometimes and really calm other times. But I wonder if that anger just seems to be really misplaced and irrational, and that's what makes him cool.
Well, no, I get that, but who is he talking about when he says he's a monster? He's looking through the camera, and it's almost as if he's talking about Cole. I did not understand that. He
really wants Sky back, and
is that what it is?
The fact that she hugs him.
So, is that what it is? Okay, I'm sorry, I just did not pick up on that. Okay, so... He's just super...
Essentially what he does there is, like, Sky kind of cries and she confides in Coulson. Coulson's kind of like her father figure. And the only thing that this not Daniel Whitehall, but her father seems to care about is getting Coulson. And that's the only thing he talks about when he goes to meet Daniel Whitehall is, we have to kill Coulson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you said this. So he's just, like, really one-track mind, kind of delusional, a mad nut job, and all he wants is his daughter back at any cost.
Yeah, and he even says that, like, there's certain extremes that people would go to over their children.
I actually kind of felt bad for Raina here, which is amazing that I'm saying that. We had to put her in a chokehold before I even sort of cared. But Raina fancies herself his daughter, and he wants his real daughter back, and will not have any of it. And he is a father figure for her because, and I saw a little bit of a parallel and interesting contrast between that and Warden Garrett. Because Garrett was, brought Ward back from nothing, and kind of molded him into something and gave him a purpose and a reason to live. And you have sort of the same thing here, except that Garrett and Ward had actual affection for each other, even though Garrett would have been willing to sacrifice Ward. I think he still cared. Like, it's just he had his goal and he was going to achieve it. But so they have that in common, where they would both be willing to sacrifice the people that are in their lives. I almost said loved ones, but that's not really the case here. But this guy is a lot quicker. He doesn't even hardly see her as a human being. It seems like she's just a means to an end, and he can manipulate her to get what he wants. But he kind of shows her his true colors real quick. Except that I think she probably knew it and didn't want that to be the case. Like, that whole thing was just super sad and kind of wrong. And
yeah, because the tragedy is that she's so easy to manipulate too. Like, with Garrett, it's the exact same thing. Like, she idolized this guy for being a real clairvoyant, and then when he wasn't, she was heartbroken over it, and he found it crazy that he actually believed her, or that she believed in him.
Yeah.
And then when Coulson does nothing, it's like she completely lost track of who she thought that guy was. It seems like she's really impressionable and really easy to get into the clutches of anyone that's bigger than her, and I think that's part of why the child might be talking about her a little bit, because for her, everyone's a wolf in some way.
I have finally, I think, figured out, now that you said that, what the flower dress is.
The delicate thing?
Holy crap. Yeah, in Innocence.
Yeah.
She's a delicate flower. I never picked up on that.
Oh, okay.
I have forever been trying to figure out what the heck the frickin' flowers are about. And I think part of the problem is that I have not been as engaged in the show sometimes as I wish I was, and it's been harder to pick up on things like that. Okay, I'm dumb. There it is. That's what so you're like, oh, I picked up on that from the second time we saw her.
No, I'm not going to go that far. I don't know. I thought it was kind of obvious. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna find somebody else to host Shield discussions. Anyway, so that's no, I'm excited. Now I know what the flowers are about. Cool. I'll sleep better now. I know what the flowers are about. Let's go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment. Go ahead. What is your favorite moment this episode, Steve?
It's kind of a toss-up. I really want to talk about the Hunter-Bobby scene, but I think just directorially and acting-wise, the best scene in the episode is the boardroom scene when Whitehall's giving his presentation.
Oh, really? That's a good one. I didn't think you were going to go there. I thought you were going to go to Coulson and Raina at the restaurant.
Oh, that's a good scene, too.
Okay. I
think part of what it is that Whitehall has been kind of mysterious and aloof, and that guy has really good command of language and is a really fun actor to talk about. Like, he's just really interesting. He's got a very interesting physique, and he's got a very interesting way of speaking. It's hard not to be intrigued by his presence.
Yeah, it's exciting every time he's on screen. But I'm starting to get that way a little bit with Skye's dad, especially after the discussion we just had about him and how he's kind of two different people, and he can jump between these personalities of really level-headed and just suddenly, and how much do we love villains like that, right? It's a lot of fun to see that. And then once those two were in a room together, I was like, could we have more of that every episode? Like, the more I'm thinking about it, I was going to go with the restaurant scene. I actually think I'm going to change mine and say it's the stinger. I think those two in a room together, that is gold, and that could be those two guys teaming up could be the thing that really escalates this show into the excitement I had for it in the first episode.
Yeah, because both of us clearly know what they're doing, and they know how to elevate the material to heights that it might not previously be there. It's almost like they get their characters better than the script can allow them to talk about.
That can create some dynamite writing sometimes too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not unusual in Marvel Cinematic. Like, Tom Hiddleston Loki, you feel like he writes his own dialogue sometimes because he's just so at home in that role.
Yeah.
And I think it's easily possible for both of these actors.
Sure. Okay. And you know what? My runner-up was the cloaking plane because I think it looked really good.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That was fun. Worst moment. I don't know that I have one. I was, as I said, I kind of groaned a little bit about the ex-wife thing, but it's not necessarily bad. I can see why you keep going to it as a thing that you really liked. I'm hoping that as you said, well, it gives Hunter something to do. Maybe I'll start liking him more. Anyway, yeah. I don't really have one otherwise.
Yeah, I don't really have one either. There wasn't anything I thought in this episode that stood out as bad. Like, we had discussions about problems with the show, but that's more of just like we wish it was going somewhere else. And it's not really a problem with the episode.
Overall thing, I want to apologize because I feel like we harp too much on that. We're at episode 5 of the season. I feel like I'm in the same place where I was last season. In some places where like it finally they went places with some things and it got really good, but it is slower than I wish it was sometimes. That's not fair. That's not fair to lob at this episode because they gave us quite a bit.
Yeah,
as far as
we sound moving a little bit down, but I really like this episode.
Yeah, exactly. I feel weird about where this conversation has gone because like it's fine. It's good. It's still this one's. The 1, 3, and 5 are good and important, and if the bunker is there and Ward's in a scene, it's important and it's a better episode. And I didn't think I would say that after the first episode of the season. Right now I feel like I can say this: if Ward is in an episode, we can expect that it's going to be good.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. So, anyway, kudos to them for making me say that. Let's go on to quotes now. Did you have a favorite quote, sir?
The best quote I could think of for this episode is when Lance is talking to Sky, and they're looking at the painting, and he says, as soon as aliens start scribbling on the back of it, it voided God's warranty.
Oh, I didn't catch that! That's a great line!
Yeah, it's hilarious. That's kind of why I like that guy. The actor is really good. He gets all the best quips. He just has no dimension.
Oh, maybe he'll get something.
Yeah, maybe Mockingbird will give him dimension. That's what I'm hoping
for. Okay, so hands down, mine was a Raina line because it sums up her entire worldview and everything we were talking about earlier with how naive she is and how easily manipulated she is and how, you know what, there's a Raina Coulson thing here. I just thought of this, where Coulson is getting a dose of reality and she's never gotten one, and she is all nostalgia. She is, I want the world to be a certain way, and I'm going to keep going with the people that I think can give me that. And she gets burned every time. And now that I'm starting to pick up on more of that stuff, she could end up ultimately being the most interesting character study in this show, depending on what happens later on.
Because Fitz is still on a Wesley Wyndham-Pryce track.
Yes, he is.
And as long as they keep that going, I think that'd be great. But yeah, Raina has the potential to do something similar.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
If not in the opposite direction.
Here's the line. I really... My brain started going when she said, just because something is powerful doesn't make it dangerous.
Yeah, that's a great line.
Because that is an inherently flawed way to look at things. Well, you could be right, but kind of that trust but verify thing, right? It might see now. I'm just going to quote episode titles from other things we've done discussions on the last 2 years.
They're good titles.
But what's that?
They're good titles sometimes.
Sometimes they are, yeah. But anyway, what I mean is, yeah, that's true, but Batman would tell you that just because someone is powerful and altruistic doesn't mean that they're not potentially dangerous. And some people might consider that a cynical viewpoint. I'm not saying that her worldview couldn't work, but if you take it to the furthest extent, where I think that the furthest extent of that is, I trust power if it comes with a promise that I want to believe. And that is what makes her inherently easily manipulatable, right? Is that people come to her with, hey Raina, we're going to give you this and we're going to justify your way of looking at things and we're going to create the world that you want. And obviously they have an ulterior motive and there's something else there, and she trusts them because she wants to. And so she seems to trust power just by the virtue of it being powerful. Ah.
Yeah, that's...
Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, like that's all fascinating to talk about now that you mention it. I actually didn't catch that line either, so...
Whew. That's good stuff. Immediately, it's 1,000 times a better episode now that I'm thinking about that. That is cool stuff. All right, going on to guest stars. Only thing I had really was the Mockingbird thing, and I forgot that was, or honestly, I didn't look things up, so I just wrote down, hey, look up Mockingbird, and then I forgot to do that. So yes, the chick that played Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and she's awesome as Mockingbird. They unveiled a picture of her in costume with the blonde hair and everything. She looks awesome.
Oh yeah, that must be what that whole reference was when he was like, "You look better blonde." I had not.
She's blonde in the comics.
Yeah, okay. I didn't immediately pick up on that because I had to look up later. Oh, Mockingbird. That's a character I don't know anything about. Oh, all right.
She's a fun character.
Let's go on to predictions and hopes. Obviously, the big thing is, what the heck is Skye? What the heck is her father?
Yeah. I'm almost more interested in her father than I am in her.
Is it? Can we be 100% sure that it's her real dad?
No, I mean, he's kind of an unreliable narrator because he's crazy.
It would be really... The thing I'm having a hard time buying, the more I'm thinking about it, and you may have swayed me a little bit when earlier you said, isn't the alien thing too easy? Can it not be that? Because earlier I was like, it's got to be alien. The thing I'm having a hard time swallowing...
It's just a matter of, like, it fits way too perfectly to be real.
Right, but to back that up, I'm not sure I'm buying that he's alien.
Yeah, could.
You see what I'm saying? Like, if she's alien, then he's probably alien too, and he sure doesn't seem it.
Yeah,
who knows? Like, but, you know,
his, like,
maybe he's a Skrull.
With the reason he's trying to act as human.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, and of course, the question is, part of the question too is, why is I don't think this has been given to us. Why is he able to control the obelisk?
Yeah.
And doesn't it... Well, that's the thing, too, though, is that... Okay, so, here's a prediction, or just a thing that I'm sure is true. Skye could pick up the obelisk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't affect her the way it affects everyone else.
Right, so
she
could probably pick it up, and we can pretty much be certain that something about her physiology is the reason that she was not affected by the language the way that she's not writing all the language stuff down. And also, I just forgot, we should tack this on. Somebody else is. We still haven't gotten anything about that yet.
Yeah.
I think that there's like another person that's writing the language down someplace.
Well, yeah, there's Coulson, there's Garrett, and Skye's not affected. So I think there is someone else.
But there is something because last episode there was that big thing. Someone else is writing because somebody else did it in the painting, and we know Coulson didn't write on the painting.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just saying that hasn't been brought up yet. So, but anyway, yeah. So I'm sure. So maybe he is an alien. What I'm saying is, whatever it is, their physiology must be similar, and so he must be her real dad.
Or maybe what could be really cool is if Skye's mom's alien, and just those two, her parents being in proximity of each other, is what gives him his craziness or something.
Well, yeah, but he's able to control the obelisk. So his
that's what I mean. Like maybe the fact that he was with her mother rubbed something off on him. In the same way Skye got it passed genetically.
Enough that he's able to pick up the obelisk? That would be weird.
Yeah, it would be weird, but I don't know.
But maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I'm leaning toward this theory that maybe he's this universe's version of Mr. Hyde, and maybe it's not so much alien as much as it's like her dad found this technology and it made him crazy, and then unknowingly he passed that on to his daughter through genetics. Because I'm not sure if they're going to have the ability to do full-blown alien stuff in this show as far as reveals go.
I don't know. I mean, they're clearly saving their money for something, because that first episode looked dynamite, and some of the rest of it's been kind of reserved so far. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm just saying that they seem to be careful not to do the kind of giant set pieces that they might do otherwise, because
it's not like Arrow where they're blowing up the same set every week.
But that's fine because it looks great, and they,
No, it was awesome.
awesome stunt work can cover a multitude of sins. Okay, let's go on finally to our trivia question for the week, and Manos' trivia question from last time was, in what movie was the mask technology first used? He went for a really easy one, and that was, of course, in Winter Soldier. That was the same tech that Black Widow used, and luckily people also did not notice that she had a different body type than and that was answered first by McCaffrey, so well done, McCaffrey. And my question last time was, what implement did the fake May use to try to stab the real May with? And it was a pair of scissors. And the answer, the first person who got that right was Caleb Shelton, so congratulations to you. And now we're going to give you our questions for this week. Steve, what is your question, sir?
Okay, I'm not sure how obscure or how easy this one is, but it's a Mockingbird question because I really like that her character in the comics. What degree does Mockingbird have in the comics?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she went to college and everything, and she's got a very specific degree.
And it's not in spying or sleuthing or kicking people in the face or using whirly sticks?
You would think. She's actually a lot closer to Simmons.
Oh, wow, okay, so she's not... That's a clue, folks.
Yes.
That's a clue he just gave. Okay, so she's not a whirly stick expert?
No. I mean, she is, but she doesn't have a degree in it.
Okay.
No piece of paper tells her she's awesome. So.
Yeah. Okay. So she doesn't have a BGA in stick whirling, and she also didn't major in planning because planning was not a major at that university. My trivia question for this week is let's see. Oh, you know what? Once again, it's food related. I can't get away from food related questions.
You're just going to make the audience really hungry.
This is turning into a thing. My question is, what is the communications interface disguised as that Simmons is working on at the park bench? It's hysterical. I lost it. I thought it was really funny. And anyway, what was it? It is food related, and that's my clue. That's my clue. We both have clues this time. My question is a lot easier than Steve's, but you still get a clue. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much for filling in for Manos. Sure appreciate you.
Yeah, it was great. We didn't talk about the fact that this episode opened with a wedding.
Oh, yeah, we didn't. And you have to expect that if you're seeing a wedding reception, especially at the beginning of an episode of TV, everyone there is going to die.
Yeah.
And exactly
and that's 8 more people than should have at a wedding.
In exactly or any time, really, but in exactly the same way that, like with Gotham, if Bruce Wayne is at a charity event, expect someone to rob everyone or try to kill everyone. Yeah,
especially if there's a giant TV that's obnoxiously big.
Yeah, if there's a big TV, you know there's going to be a supervillain on that TV.
Yeah, of course. I mean, why else would you have the TV?
Why else would you have it? That's why it's there. Like people 3 hours before the party hooked that thing up just so that the supervillain could talk to... Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate you. Looking forward to your questions and your comments. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
We'll see you again next week.